Hey guys, this is Alex Ramsey, host of Night of the Batman, and also I'm doing something a little bit different today again. I'm going to be doing a review of the season 2 premiere of Arrow, the City of Heroes, and that premiered last night at 8 on the CW. And this is going to be sort of like an off the cuff just my thoughts about it, since I wanted to get this video out pretty soon to you guys so you could see what I thought about it. And it takes a lot of time for me to script stuff since I've been working on other stuff and been kind of busy in general. So let's get this review started. So let me just start off with what I liked. I'll try not to spoil too much about it. I'm not going to really go into a summary because I assume that the people that haven't watched it, they don't want everything spoiled for them. So I'm just going to stick strictly to what I like and what I didn't. And then a final rating. So let's start off with the good stuff, what I liked. One of the first things I liked, the season 1 finale, by the way, spoiler alert, I'm going to spoil a few things. So if you haven't seen the episode right now, or haven't seen the season 1 finale, I advise you switch this off, go watch it, and then come back. So the season 1 finale ended. The whole city was destroyed because Oliver thought there was only one bomb. Turns out the Dark Archer, Malcolm, who is Tommy's dad, was like the villain this whole time, had 2 bombs instead of just one. Ended up leveling the Glades, which is sort of like the Suicide Slum of which, if you don't know, that's in the superhero comics. Superman comics, sorry. Sort of like the rough area of town, sort of like a Harlem-esque area. And the whole thing was leveled. Oliver's friend ended up sacrificing himself to save his ex-girlfriend. And the whole thing just sort of ended with like Roy Harper trying to do a rescue effort. If you don't know, Roy Harper in the comics ends up being Green Arrow's sidekick, so I'm interested to see where they go with that. And he was trying to save his girlfriend, which is also Oliver's little sister. It just sort of ended on like the city falling apart and the hero losing, the villain winning, even though he didn't survive. And on the premiere, I was kind of thrown aback a little bit because it was 2 months after what had happened in there, which I think is cool. They seem to be doing stuff like that a lot more now in movies. I guess they skip forward just to show you like how much things change from that event to now, how much like the status quo has changed. It's kind of a neat storytelling device to see where people are after like the previous season, see like what kind of life they're living. Oliver, which I found this kind of weird, he goes back to the island. I guess it's sort of like how some prisoners get into the prison mindset, and once they go out there, or once they get a setback, well, in this case, once he gets a setback from a failure, like the island is all he knows, so he goes back there for sort of solace because he can't deal with the whole burning issue of like he failed pretty much, and he doesn't want to go back. So Felicity and Diggle end up trying to convince him to pretty much come back. I liked that he throughout the episode, he doesn't want to be Arrow, and I was waiting, like they had a really big build up for him to come back. And another thing I really liked is there's copycats, kind of like in the Dark Knight movie, but kind of like this is realistic too. I hate to sit here and compare both of them because Arrow has sort of become its own thing. It's not as much of it wasn't a ripoff, but it doesn't borrow as heavily from the Nolan movies as it used to. It's sort of become its own series, which I really like. You have copycats of the Arrow called the Hoods, and they and they're of course avenging themselves against the higher up people for like basically like the people they lost during the Glades. Like these were people from the Glades that now see what the Hood has done and take his example. And I like stuff like that. I think that's very realistic. Stuff like that does actually happen in real life with not as much with the positive people like emulating heroes, but sort of like the neo-Nazis, stuff like that, like punk kids sort of taking up the mantle, thinking that they can be like that person or like that sort of ideal. Another thing I really liked is that in the first season, Oliver killed a lot, and in this season they finally addressed that. He will no longer kill, which I really appreciate. I think it's much more of a character thing because of like basically Tommy died thinking he was a murderer pretty much, so he doesn't want to do that anymore. Because he feels like he's disrespecting the memory of his friend. So I thought that was a good reason. I think a lot more stories are doing this now rather than just having the superhero be like, I just don't kill just because. Like, it's good that they have a reason, or they start off doing that but then figure out like it's wrong to do that. And also that was just one of my big issues with the show. I'm glad they addressed that. Another thing they did that I really like, in one of the episodes a while back, Laurel and Oliver got together while Tommy and her were technically broken up, but it was still kind of cheating and kind of underhanded. I'm glad they addressed that in this episode. And she said she was wrong for doing that. That was a mistake. I'm glad. Because that seemed way out of character for both of them to sit there and do that. And it seemed kind of petty. I'm glad that they addressed that and basically just said it was wrong. Another thing I really liked is that they're moving away from the Hood name. He doesn't want to be known as a vigilante anymore. He wants to, they don't actually say it, but I think from now on he's going to be called the Green Arrow because he doesn't want to be called the Hood anymore. He doesn't want to be identified as a vigilante. And he's sort of moving towards that Batman-esque role where the former detective that was sort of his Commissioner Gordon got demoted, and so like he works with him. He, instead of killing the Hoods, he spares their lives pretty much. And he's slowly coming closer to what he is in the comics, but also still maintaining that sort of realistic quality that the first season had. So I thought that was really good. Also, the action scenes in this, as always, were amazing. I thought they did a really good job with those, as usual. And one of the things that kind of interests me is at the very end, we get to see this character that they never really explain who she is. I'm sure they will in the future. Roy Harper goes after a group of punks that are like messing with this girl, and then all of a sudden this blonde girl that looks a lot like Black Canary comes and helps him out and just sort of disappears. I'm interested to see who that is. I wonder if it's Laurel or if it's a new character they're going to introduce. And also, another thing I kind of like is that they have Roy Harper sort of doing his own thing. Like he sort of took after after Green Arrow's influence and sort of became a copycat of that. And I think his name is going to be Blood, since he wears the red hood a lot. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I can't wait for those two to team up. And some of the future episodes in this I think are going to be particularly good because they'll be bringing in people like the Flash and like spinning that off into its own show, which I can't wait for. I think that this is going to be a good season overall, just for like the superhero genre in general. I guess now we'll get to the things I didn't particularly care for, which is just like really just one thing. Okay, so there's this scene where Oliver Queen is visiting Tommy's grave and Laurel shows up. And they have this big conversation about how she doesn't like the hood, but that doesn't really bother me as much as when she gives the reason why. She says that somehow Tommy's death was the hood's fault, even though at the time when he did die, she didn't even know that he was even involved. And really, when you look at it, he was trying to fight the bad guy. And like, I think she's being kind of unfair. I think they're just sort of doing that to force drama and sort of aid the story, which I thought was kind of weak. It doesn't really make any sense when you really sit down and think about it. That was just like a minor gripe, though, because it doesn't even make any sense, because she sat there and saw Tommy die, and the arrow wasn't even anywhere near it. In fact, he was trying to stop the whole thing, so her whole argument kind of falls flat. But that was just like a minor complaint. Besides that, I generally like this episode. I'm interested to see what they do with the mother character since she's in jail. I hope that they don't do one of those quick fixes like they do in some shows like Smallville, where in one episode everything's messed up, but then the next one they come up with some plot contrivance so that everything can go back to the status quo. That kind of stuff really irritates me. I hope that they either keep her in jail or they give a really good reason why she's no longer in jail. That being said, I really do like her character though, so I hope they find a way to sort of keep her included in the story and that she's not written off. But I really also like how I'm gonna babble a little bit more. I know this review is running a little bit long, but I also like how the sister character, Speedy, I'm blanking on her name right now, is sort of, in the first season she was a drug addict, and now she's sort of put her life back together. She's trying to help Roy sort of do the same thing. Like she's his girlfriend, but she's kind of looking after him and making sure he stays out of trouble, and is running Oliver's old club now, which I thought was really cool. It's a step in the right direction. She's very much maturing and growing up from the girl we saw in the first season. So I'm looking forward to some of the future episodes. I'm glad they're going to finally start calling him Green Arrow. I think it's about time. The Hood, or the Hood guy, was getting kind of old. So yeah, so I look forward to the next episode. I hope you guys liked it. If I had to rate it right now, 1 to 5 scale, I'd probably rate it like a 4.5 out of 5. This is a really great premiere. I think this is one of the best I've probably seen in a while. And yeah, it's just really good. So if you guys haven't seen it yet, I hope you enjoy it and like watch it. And what did you guys think of it? What do you want to see in this season that you haven't seen in any other show? What villains would you like them to bring